And welcome to our community. Susie Thomas here with you this morning, visiting with some folks who are involved with something very interesting. Get your Christmas lists out because it's going to be time to put a very cool thing on them. With Kahiniwala or Pebble Products, we're speaking with Austin and Marita Miller. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
First of all, Austin, Marita, either one of you can answer this one. Kahiniwala, what are we talking about here?
Well, Kahiniwala is a word in Bangladesh that means storyteller. And storytelling is a big part of what we do. It's not just about the product, but it's where that product comes from and the stories behind that product. And the Pebble product line is a fair trade product. And so part of fair trade is being transparent and telling the story, the background behind that product.
Well, what I want to do is take you back now to another thing that you said there, and that was Bangladesh. And how did you particularly zero in on Bangladesh?
Well, as a family, we lived in Bangladesh for about 8 years. And so it's kind of like a second home. We first went to Bangladesh with the Mennonite Church, and we worked there most recently with Mennonite Central Committee, and they do a job creation program in the rural areas, and I was working there as a product designer. And so we have 3 sons, and our 2 oldest sons were born there, so they have good memories of Bangladesh, and I hope to continue to take them back from time to time.
How old are they now, if you were there 8 years?
They're 11, 14, and 16.
So they really are more familiar with living life in Bangladesh than here, correct? This was the transition for them.
Right.
Tell me about your life there together as a family. Very unusual for a young family to decide that that's where they're going to go. What was your day-to-day like?
Well, for me, the kids were really little when we first moved, so I was at home with them most of the time, interacting. We had a helper who came out every day to help wash the floors, wash the clothes, the diapers, everything by hand, just getting to know people.
And in my job capacity there, I was working as a product designer, but the day-to-day life, we spent a lot of time on public transportation. I didn't choose to drive there. It's a bit crazy with 11 million people in the city.
My goodness.
And but we drove around by rickshaw, and we learned to love curry and lots of good food and conversations over tea. And that's sort of how we learned the language, is by interacting with new friends that we were making.
Product designer, what were you doing specifically?
So I was working with craft products, and we worked with buyers like 10,000 Villages and Serve International and some of these fair trade organizations that are selling products from around the world.
Wow. Now I want to get back to you, Marita. You said something about hand doing laundry.
Yes.
With 3 small children, a couple of them in diapers at the same time. How in the world did you adapt to a life like that?
I think it's just something you make up your mind that you can do. And actually millions of people around the world are doing it every day.
Wow.
But we did have help, and which was wonderful because, we got to know her. She was like a part of our family. And when she would come to the door in the morning, when my oldest was about 2, he would run to the door to open it, and he'd say, "Auntie, cha kabin. Auntie, do you want tea?" Mm-hmm. And a little bit later, she would make tea for the 2 of them to drink, and it was just so special.
What you're describing is just really neat as far as building relationships. Mm-hmm. So tell us about those relationships that you built, the people you got to know as you were living there.
So Bangladesh is a large country. I mean, it's about half the population of the U.S. and fitting into about the size of Wisconsin or Ohio. And so it's a very populous country, and it's about 87% Muslim, so there's a large Muslim population. So most of our interaction would have been with Muslim colleagues and friends. And Bangladesh is a very hospitable country, and we were welcomed with open arms everywhere we went, whether it was in the city or the village. And in Bangladesh, religion is not a taboo topic, and so we would have very lively discussions about our faith, and that was always really a good thing, a stimulating thing, and it really helped us to really ground ourselves in what we believed. But our landlord, for instance, he was Muslim, and we were there over the 9/11 attacks, and it was a really difficult time, and a lot. Obviously, here in the U.S., it was a difficult time, and our friends in the U.S. were very concerned because we were living in a Muslim country, and there was the fear there of Muslims. But on our end, we were very, all of our Muslim friends, especially our landlord, they came to us and they were like, are your friends safe? They knew we had lived in New York, and they said, are your friends safe? Is everybody okay? We just feel so bad about this. This is not what we believe. This is not sort of our religion. This is radical people. And so we felt very well taken care of. And it was a time of bonding, actually, between us and our friends and neighbors.
Did you ever feel fearful for your life, Sarah, for your family while you were there?
No. I mean, the only thing I would say is in the traffic,
Yeah.
In that
Okay,
sense,
that-
Crazy drivers.
Crazy
Any busy city.
yes. But other than that, no. We felt very safe.
And I think when most of us hear the word Bangladesh, we think poverty. We think abject poverty. Is there a more affluent area? Tell us about Bangladesh. So many of us know very little about it.
So, I mean, if you look at Asia in general, there's the vast differences between people who have extreme wealth and extreme poverty, and Bangladesh is no different than that. But we find there is a growing middle class, and it continues to grow. I was shocked this last time we were living there. This rickshawala pulled out this cell phone that was nicer than mine, and so there are these juxtapositions of culture that are just very, very interesting. And so, but they do have natural disasters. They have flooding from time to time, but they're becoming more and more prepared to deal with that. And so, yeah.
Do you go back? Do you keep in touch with your friends there?
This past summer, I took my oldest son back for about a month, and we did some photography. We visited some of the villages where the Pebble products are made, and that was a really special time because he hadn't been back for 4.5, 5 years, and so it was really a good sort of coming of age trip.
Changes since you'd been there last?
Maybe a little bit more traffic,
Wow.
a lot more. I could tell a growing middle class in the city. The rural life, there's a lot more electricity in the rural areas than there had been. Nicer roads, getting to places is a bit easier. So, yeah, there have been some positive changes.
So interesting. Well, let's get into now why you're here with us today. While you were there, certainly you saw some things, some needs, and here back in the States, figured out a way to begin to address those needs. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, it's really difficult for women in Bangladesh, especially as a Muslim country. Most women stay at home. There aren't a lot of opportunities for them to get out, to have a job. It's also difficult because if a woman is raped, it's always considered her fault, and she's often thrown out and abandoned by her family. So one of the very few options they have is to leave their families, leave their children with relatives and move to the city and work in garment factories, which are sweatshops, just really terrible conditions. And they were put at risk of many things happening, and they're not paid very well at all. So while we were there, this last time we met Samantha, who started Pebble as a way to give women jobs within the rural areas where they could stay with their families, they could walk to work, take their children with them if they were nursing or toddlers, and put them into a preschool there.
Sounds so wonderful. And now you say that you met Samantha, who started Pebble. Help me connect these dots. Was she in any way associated with these same kinds of products that you were in product development?
So I saw the way that she had been She has a business background, and so she was very well suited to start these rural businesses, and she's scaled them in a way that I hadn't seen people do before in the fair trade world. And so I started consulting with her because I was working with about 25 women, and at that time she was working with 3,500. So I saw the scale of what she was doing, and I thought, if we really want to make a bigger impact, we need to sort of look at what her successes are and how she moved forward with that. And so we just started meeting occasionally on a consulting basis, and then eventually we became friends. And then when we moved back to the U.S., she put a bug in my ear and said, would you like to distribute Pebble in the U.S.? And so that's where Kahiniwala was actually born.
Okay, it's unusual, isn't it, for a woman to be an entrepreneur in a Muslim country? Was Samantha a transplant, or was she a Muslim friend that this was just something that she had done? How did this happen in the first place?
It's a love story. So Samantha grew up in the UK, and her husband also grew up in the UK, but his background was Bangladesh. His parents had been from Bangladesh, so they met, they got married, and moved to Bangladesh together. So they are the co-founders of Pebble, and he's very much involved in the certain aspects of the business, but she does all the product design as well as a lot of the business planning and strategy.
Tell me about the Pebble products. What are we talking about here?
These are cute little handmade rattles. They're all like knit and crochet, blankets, hats, things like that for babies and for toddlers, and even bigger ones.
I know I can verify that they are completely entertaining to a very small child. We purchased one. It's our granddaughter's favorite rattle when she was a baby. Now, some people I know are a little concerned when they see a product made in another country, not sure about the conditions under which it was made. Sanitary, is this cloth clean? Tell us a little bit about those rules and regulations they might follow.
Sure. The yarn has all been safety tested as far as the dyes go, and then the products are all washed before they are shipped out. And so everything goes through numerous quality control checks before it gets to us and before it gets to the customer. And everything is also machine washable. So if you have any doubts, throw it in the machine. It'll be fine.
And it'll hold up because it's high quality.
Yeah.
Right.
And we're talking about handmade items, aren't we? Describe them just a little bit. I know you've mentioned that there's rattles and things, blankets. Describe them a bit.
Sure. We have really cute little donut rattles that kids love to play with and make believe. And the most popular one is an octopus rattle. So it's great for kids to grab onto the tentacles.
And also, I noticed that they don't have to be able to grasp something. It can fit right over that wrist if a baby is really young, and they're able to play with it in that way. So you have a number of characters.
Right.
Yeah, the octopus, and one that almost looks like a doll, but no face. Is that right?
Right.
Yes, we have some little ones like that.
Others?
Yeah, we have a number of, we're sort of branching out into nursery decor. So we have little granny square bunting and little pillows that have little either monster or robot character faces on them. And we have little rag dolls where the clothes come off and they can put little purses on them. And so all in all, there's probably about 200 different products that are available.
Very cool. We are speaking with Austin and Marita Miller. They are with Kahiniwala, which means storytelling. So we're hearing the story behind these Pebble products and what they're doing for the people in Bangladesh. We will be back after this break. In the meantime, you're listening to The Light, 95.9 WNPQ, and this is Our Community.